Namaskarams to all. In the entire introduction, there is no word science or music in the whole profile that was presented to you, but that is the subject on which I am supposed to talk. I am neither familiar with the core of science nor the very idea of music. I love music, I love science. But knowledge is not limited to domains. In fact, specialization has killed knowledge. I always used to tell Kamakoti, we have to produce a silo-free thinking model. That's what I would like to present to you, because we are all living in the Newtonian world. There is nothing more powerfully driven idea to make people ignorant and illiterate than the Newtonian idea. In fact, I would normally end my speech with an experience in the life of Maharishi Aurobindo. He had come from Bengal, having given up the revolutionary movement and trying to pursue what is the eternal mission of India. He was one of the greatest brains India produced. And he was listless. He didn't have any idea as to what to tell hundreds and hundreds of people who were looking to him for guidance. But he was looking to a madman called Kullachami. He was really mad. He will eat mud, he will throw stones, he will laugh, he will cry. Aurobindo said, this man will provide me the lead. So everybody thought something had happened to Aurobindo. So he was sitting and having a cup of tea, Aurobindo, with his colleagues. And Kullachami came and lifted the teacup in front of Aurobindo and showed it to him. It was full. Then he emptied it and showed it to him and kept it and went away. Aurobindo said, I have got my message. So his colleagues asked, you have lost your tea. Please tell us what message you have got. He said, you have to empty your thoughts and begin thinking afresh. We are in that state of ignorance. And Kullachami is a person about whom Subramanya Bharati has written poems. Why I am saying this is that this world cannot be understood with the normal eyes. You know, when Krishna Paramatma was showing his Vishwarupa, he told Arjuna, you cannot see it with your normal eyes. I will give you a magnetic glass that will make you see me. So to see the truth, the knowledge, the idea of how this universe evolved, you cannot look at the Newtonian world to understand, because the Newtonian world blinds you to reality. I would like to mention a few Newtonian falling apple facts, to quote Newton against himself. You know, everybody saw apples falling, but only Newton questioned, why is it falling? And that is how the entire theory of thermodynamics emerged. And like that, there are many hundreds of falling apple facts about our civilization which we are not aware. But I will not quote those facts, but I will quote the facts which have been recorded by the topmost brains of the world. It is sitting in Nilgiris. Macaulay wrote that the entire Indian civilization, if it is reduced into books, it will not fill half the shelf of the English Empire. And he quoted that we are the descendants of the Greek and Roman civilization. These are barbarians, semi-barbarians. This was in 1835. But in 1820, a book had been written by one Edward Pocock, a Greek himself, a British Greek. He said the entire Greek civilization was built by the Vedic civilization. And he quoted how the migration took place from India. And he said the Greek mythologies cannot be explained without Hindu mythologies. And the idea of naming rivers, holding them sacred, the mountains, celebrating women as God. These are all the idea of which Plato and Socrates expressed. These had all traveled from here, and he gave enormous amount of data, and that book came out in 1852, 17 years after Macaulay wrote that we are the descendants of the Greco-Roman civilization, and so we can only civilize India. But he did not know, a Greek himself had written, that it is the Hindu civilization which produced the Greek civilization. That book came out in 1852, and the British ensured that the book was not circulated in India. It is only in 1950s or so this was uncovered. This book is titled India in Greece. You can download it in the Lost Books site of the internet. In 2001, another Greek, an American, he came out with a volume, The Shape of Ancient Thought, in which the bibliography in that book is 1/3 of the book. One of the most well-researched books, in which he said, the ideas of Plato and Socrates had no laboratory in Greece. The laboratory existed only in Vedas and Upanishads, and from which he drew, because what they spoke was only the output. The input was not there. And brilliant exposition. You must read that book that is called The Shape of Ancient Thought. It has been brought out by Motilal Banarsidass in India. These are the falling apple facts. Unless you take the helicopter view, you cannot understand what music is. Most people do not understand music because music has become entertainment today. Music was the path of realization of God. Kanchi Mahaswami said, Tyagaraja Swami Ganamargena Mokshangatha. Moksha is not a place where you attain. Moksha is something which you realize inside. And that powerful connect with that supreme consciousness. One of the most important paths is music. This is what I would like to posit before I tell you how science moved. Unless we know how science moved, we cannot understand Muthuswami Dikshitar. We cannot understand Carnatic music. We cannot understand our civilization. We cannot understand ourselves. We cannot understand whom we are. We cannot understand what the world is and what the world expects from us today. If the whole thing has to be understood, Muthuswami Dikshitar is an instrument. This is a context in which I want to reveal to you the text of what I have understood about what science and music is. You know, Newton discovered his thermodynamics theory in 1665. For 250 years, this occupied the world, and he said very clearly, the world is real, and there is nothing else which is real. And it held the field till 1905. Then Einstein came and said the world is not real, that what you are not seeing is real, and that is relative, that you cannot see, and then he expounded this relativity theory. And he said it is space and time which are absolute. Nothing else is absolute. Einstein believed in a static world. Why I have to mention this is I have to take you to music means we have to travel with how science moved. Then only we can understand what music is. So, because he believed in a static world, he didn't believe in evolution. He didn't believe in the birth of the world, birth of the universe. But in 1931, Edwin Hubble, he came out with his theory, which he proved also, that the universe expands. What expands must have a birth, must have an origin. It must also have an end. So in 1931, Einstein had a discussion with him and said that his idea, that his exposition that the world is static is a blunder. But later his mathematical formulations only led to the Big Bang theory, which evolved between 1927 and 1964, when the idea of cosmic microwave background gave the idea that universe originated at a particular time in a particular situation, and that is called Big Bang theory. But this Big Bang theory tormented the scientists. If something happened through which this universe began originating and expanding, what was there before? This tormented the scientists to no end. And the quantum scientists didn't know how to handle this phenomenon, a mysterious phenomenon. So, our Shastras, what existed before the Big Bang, for which the quantum science and scientists had no idea, our Shastras said it is from non-matter, matter came. It is from non-matter, energy came. This is our Shastras. This is our Upanishads. These are our Vedas. So in 1863, Schrodinger was one of the earliest recipients of, after Einstein, one of the earliest recipients of quantum science Nobel Prize. He said, it is only from Vedas and Upanishads you can understand how the universe originated. He said, Vedanta teaches that consciousness is singular. All happenings are played out in one universal consciousness, and there is no possibility of, there is no multiplicity of cells. In all the world, there is no kind of framework within which we can find consciousness in plural. Because the temporal plurality of individuals is a false construction. The only solution to this conflict, insofar as any available, lies in the ancient wisdom, the Upanishads. This is what he said in 1863. I don't think, when I spoke in IIT in Bombay in 2017, IIT scholars did not know about it. That is the extent of ignorance the Newtonian world has caught us in. Then it is not only Schrodinger. Brian David Josephson, he said, he is also a Nobel laureate. Vedanta and Sankhya hold the key to the laws of mind and thought process, which are correlated to the quantum field. That is the operation and distribution of particles at atomic and molecular levels. You can find answers only in Vedas. And then Heisenberg, he said, after conversations about Indian philosophy, some of the ideas of quantum physics that had seemed so crazy suddenly became making sense. But this did not solve the problem. It made it more complex. How can consciousness transform into matter? How can consciousness transform into energy? This began tormenting. This remained unanswered. Roger Penrose, who got the Nobel Prize in 2020, but it is not the, he got the Nobel Prize for a very different branch of quantum physics. He said, he proposed that consciousness is non-algorithmic and originates from quantum processes within the brain microtubules rather than just neural network computations developed with one Stewart. This, he said, orchestrated objective reduction theory such as consciousness arises from quantum composition collapsing into non-computable physical objective events. This is in 2020. He got the Nobel Prize in 2020. He wrote the book in 1997 or 98, I think. But in this entire journey, this is where I am coming to music. You might have wondered why I am talking about all this. In the entire 100-year journey, science thought that universe is a vacuum. It's empty. This is the proposition of science which held the field for 100 years. But in 2020, something stunning happens. NASA made a breakthrough. They got the initial data after the Big Bang. The data that is available, they reduced by a sonification method into sound. And that the beginning of the universe was with a sound. This is the sound of universe at the starting point. Put up the light. sound which was heard 13.2 billion years ago. The data that was available in physical form was transformed through sonification method into this. Next. You got one? This is the sound. This sound existed at the time of the Big Bang. Next. You know why science said universe was empty? It's a vacuum. Stop. Because there is no medium by which sound could travel. Anything could travel except light. So NASA came out with a final admission in 2022. There is a misconception that there is no sound in space. And Martinez, who explained this phenomenon, he said there is humming sound. The sound released by NASA from black hole at the center of galaxy cluster. What you are hearing, what you heard, is pressure waves emitted from the black hole causing ripples in the cluster of stars of hot gas. Everybody thought Big Bang was an explosion. It was no explosion. It is explained like this by NASA. The beginning of the universe is a haunting hum, a humming sound. Haunting hum is a psychological condition. Some people hear within themselves a humming sound. Sometimes it's a threatening because it's mysterious. What did the Big Bang really sound like? Spoiler, question mark. It wasn't a cosmic explosion. Many people thought it was an explosion. It was no explosion. Instead, scientists recreated a low, haunting hum based on data from the oldest light in the universe in the cosmic microwave background, CMB, which discovered the Big Bang. Using advanced model, they have uncovered the true sound of the universe's beginning. Note this point. The universe's beginning is a humming sound. Our Vedas and Upanishads say it all started with the humming sound Om. It is, sound means vibration. It's music. And that is a structured, it's not unstructured. It is not something which has collapsed into sound. Now I will come to how music was perceived by a great quantum scientist, Michio Kaku, a well-known theoretical physician, co-founder of the string theory of the universe. He said in string theory, all particles are vibrations in a tiny rubber band. Physics is the harmonies on the string. Chemistry is the melodies we play on the vibrating strings. Universe is a symphony of strings, and the mind of God is a cosmic music resonating in 11-dimensional hyperspace. And he finally said, conclusion is very important. Music is the voice of God. This is what is it? What are the greatest quantum physicists? And completely unrelated, one of the greatest Sufi saints, he said something very, very near, or almost as close to as what we say. A classical instrumentalist, he used to play the veena. And when he was 32 years old, he left the music to let all hear the music of God and founded the Sufi order in the West. When he spoke of the universal Sufism, but he never did he leave the music. What he had begun to think was divine sound. Divine sound, said Hazrat, is the cause of all manifestations. It is from sound wave, that the entire creative process originated. This is what science says. But this man said it in 1914. The knower of the mystery of sound knows the mystery of the whole universe. This is what he said. Now I will take you to more recent understanding about music. Before that, I will tell you what our Vedas and Upanishads said. Vedas and Upanishads said that the idea of Nada Brahman, Shabda Brahman, what Schrodinger said, that the idea of Brahman, which is the super consciousness from which the matter arose, first manifested through sound. This is what our Vedas say. I need not have to quote all this because these are all available on the net. Today, information is available on the net, but we have to transform it into knowledge. There is no mechanism to transform it into knowledge unless you take a helicopter view. Otherwise, you will be viewing everything in silos. If you look at things in silos, you are the most illiterate person in the world. Today, one of my friends told me when I addressed the Niti Ayog at the request of the Prime Minister about some of these facts in the context of economics and technology. So my friend told me as we were driving to the venue, I had to go for a eye checkup. And when I went to the hospital, there are 7 specialists for eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to go through all the 7 specialists to know what is your problem. This was not the case 30 years back. This was not the case 15 years back. As a chartered accountant, I used to give consultation for everybody. Now there is a partnership, sole proprietorship, a company, listed company. This has completely reduced knowledge into specialization. And unless you move out of this, unless you take a helicopter view, you cannot understand knowledge. That's where quantum physicists had to look to Vedas. Now our Shastras say Vedas are the vibrations. Actually, Vedas are called Apaurushaya. This is the only literature written which had no author. Only literature for which there is no author. Will anybody write such great literature and not put his name? And I tell you, I personally experienced it in Arunachal Pradesh. How Vedas are Apaurushaya. Have you got that video? Anyhow, I'll wait. When I went to Arunachal Pradesh in 2001, they told me about the critical condition which their civilization was. Going and doing meditation in forests was one of the practices of young boys. And many used to go and do meditation, and they used to go to such high levels, they used to get Vedic sounds. And that Vedic sound transformed their life, and they became the gurus or pujaris. And there were 5,000 such people. And in 2001, they told me the number has drastically reduced to about 500. Our entire chanting of Vedas, their Vedas. This has nothing to do with our sounds. It is their grasping of Vedas in the manner in which our own rishis must have done thousands of years back. That is happening in Arunachal Pradesh. So how our Vedas, which were sustained by father teaching the son, which is called Niyama Adhyayana, then Niyama Adhyayana collapsed because there was no support from the state and the society. Then it became the Gurukula system. That also lost support. Then in the last 100 years, we transformed into Veda Padashala system. Veda Padashala is not the best method of learning Vedas. But there is no other alternative today. So I suggested that we should start Veda Padashalas there. by people who have heard this sound. And in 2015, this was started with the help of the Kanchi Mata. And I will show you how the Veda Padashalas are running there. There Vedas.
Due to continuous onslaught of modernity and persistent nefarious influences of alien cultural activities, the indigenous tradition, culture and belief system faces a serious threat from these wanton conversion activities, rendering fast
are their
eroding
Vedic
and
rishis.
extinction of indigenous ways of life. The need for the preservation
Padashala.
and promotion of the indigenous culture, traditions and language was felt by thousands of selfless and like-minded social thinkers from the state.
ये दोनी पोलो कल्चरल चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट जो है, बेसिकली ये दोनी पोलो जितना भी फॉलोअर्स
Doni Polo means
उसके लिए
Surya
ट्रस्ट
and
बनाया
Chandra.
गया है. हम लोग का ये सोचना है कि अगर घुमकों को बनाएंगे तो फिर इसको रख रखाव कौन करेगा? पुजारी चाहिए. फिर आज हमारा सबसे बड़ा खतरा है हमारा पुजारी. पुजारी बहुत फास्ट वेनिश होते जा रहे हैं.
Then, like chain reaction, these ideas led to the bringing of institutionalized institution in the form of Nubu Nyagam Yarko. Nubu means priest. Nyagam means person having profound traditional knowledge and wisdom. Yarko means institution. Just like the ancient Gurukul system of schooling, the students of Nubu Nyagam Yarko have to follow tight schedule and strict rules. They start their morning with morning prayer called
Anyway,
as
you can stop now.
Aru Kamchiyam Kumnam.
According to Nobel laureates, the universe originated in a pre-existing universal consciousness which cannot be measured in mathematical formulation. That is the position of science today. Now, if Vedas, which are looked to by the quantum scientists, says that consciousness transformed into matter, which is very nearly accepted by as a matter of consensus, though we will not admit it because that will lead to great consequences for the modern science. The position today is that a super consciousness transformed into energy, and it coincided with music. The important thing is this transformation happened coinciding with music or through music. That is the position today. So now, the recent discoveries in quantum science and music. This I am quoting the researchers that are going on. Recent discoveries in quantum science and music have moved away from purely theoretical discussions to active experimentation. So don't think Muthuswami Dikshitar or Tyagaraja Swami were producing kritis and phonetics, linking them to the discipline of the ragas, the thalas. The ultimate idea is the singer, the song, the listener must all be elevated to the level of consciousness. That level of consciousness, that is the idea. You must become music itself. That music and you are not different. That is the level to which music can take you. Now, music is entertainment. Now, the classical music is the worst way of describing Carnatic music. Because classical music came to be identified because the modern music has come. Modern music is drum beating and it destabilizes the human mind. If there is anything which will prevent you from understanding what is super consciousness, it is the modern sound. But our music elevates you. It's a process. There is a structure. And at the bottom of it, at the middle of it, at the top of it is devotion. This is sacred. Music is sacred. Music is divine. Only if you understand it, you can get an idea as to what we are talking about when we are talking about science and music, which is no more a contradiction. In fact, if you look at what the AI says, it was regarded as quantum, because this is regarded as an art. And science is regarded as a great investigative pursuit. So, breakthrough in early 2026. We are in 26. We are in March. I am talking about January. Quantum All India Music Composition, AI Music Composition. As of January 2026, quantum computers are actively computing original real-time music that has never been heard before. But we have heard it. We are hearing it even today. They have to hear it from AI. Through the sound which we heard, they are trying to formulate this, to understand what music was. But we have it in a living form. It has been structured and given to us from time to time. But do we understand music that way? We understand music through sabhas, which is the worst way of understanding music. Tyagaraja Swami did not have a sabha. When he composed, when he sang, he only saw Rama. That is musical consciousness. So when we are discussing about music, we have to, of course, I don't want to get deep into what is Carnatic music because it is still in theoretical form. No IIT, no research institution has gone into the relationship between science and music in the manner in which Western institutions are doing. And they don't have music. They are trying to connect their rudimentary music to science. We have music in a living form. Cosmic music in a living form. But we have not done any research. We are not even thinking of a research. Why I agreed to come when Kamakoti asked me is that we have to create this vibration in these research institutions. Here the musicians are one group. The listeners, the audience is one group. Science is another group. Merely because we hold it in IIT, it doesn't connect all the three. We need crazy minds. It is crazy minds, as who said, I forget his name. It is crazy minds which have led to discoveries. Normal minds won't. It will only apply for a clerk's job. We have to produce people with the thirst. Because in the last 15, 20 years, particularly in the last 5 years, knowledge has transformed into a totally abstract concept. It's no more concrete. Knowledge is not concrete at all today. So we have to produce people who will swim into the abstract regions and try to understand knowledge. Because this nation has the responsibility to show a world to the world which is not at crossroads, which is at a dead end. I am a cross-cultural analyst in terms of economics, in terms of sociology, in terms of politics. Science is not my domain, but I understand how much harm Newtonian science has caused to the world. Even though it is 100 years old, it is outdated. The outdated science is still grasping us so much that we are not able to go behind it to know what the truth is. Music is one of the important instruments by which the mind connects. The mind is connected, and that is connected to the super mind that is Nada Brahman. We have to understand it that way. Thank you very much.